Let's try it again.
Let's try it again.
No, I have an echo.
No, I have an echo. Okay, let's do at our best of
the best we can.
the best we can.
Let's work with it. So how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Well, thanks for being here.
My
so
pleasure.
Just before we get
My
started,
pleasure.
Just before we get started, I'll explain to our viewers a bit in Portuguese about what this is about and who are you. I'm going to introduce you, and then we'll run to the questions, okay?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Great. Então, olá, bom dia a todo mundo. Estamos aqui inaugurando a primeira live especial do projeto Paradigma em Conexão, que é coordenado pela Bia Chamati. Estamos aqui abrindo o módulo de lives especiais. Meu nome é Raul Vaz Manzione. Atualmente eu sou aluno do Paradigma, eu sou aluno de mestrado. Mas eu sou meio filho do Paradigma também. Eu fiz qualificação avançada no Paradigma. Eu estou no grupo de pesquisa de RFT, Relational Frame Theory. Me formei no Mackenzie em 2015. Eu integrei a diretoria da ACBS Brasil no ano de 2018 a 2019. E também sou membro da ACBS Internacional, que é onde eu conheci o Nanni, a Association for Contextual Behavioral Science, onde nós atualmente participamos junto de um projeto. E o Nanni, para quem não o conhece, o Nanni ele é médico pela Universidade de Catania, ele é doutor em psicologia clínica pela Universidade de Milão. I'm introducing you right now, by the way.
I am from Enna, actually.
Not
Catania.
Not Catania.
It's pretty close to Catania, but 70 kilometers away.
70 kilometers away.
Okay, thanks for the correction. Além de ser psicoterapeuta e pesquisador, ele é professor associado de psicologia na Universidade Kore de Enna e é ex-presidente da ACBS, Association for Contextual Behavioral Science, é membro fundador da Associação Europeia de Análise do Comportamento e presidente da Associação Profissional Italiana de Análise do Comportamento. Ele é ACBS Peer-Reviewed ACT Trainer e tem uma vasta experiência no desenvolvimento de ACT para tratamento de crianças e adolescentes em contextos clínicos e não clínicos. Sua formação está enraizada na análise do comportamento e análise do comportamento aplicada, e grande parte de seu trabalho clínico e pesquisa também é dedicado a crianças e adolescentes com TEA. Seus interesses de pesquisa incluem pesquisa básica e RFT para desenvolvimento de leitura e linguagem. And I think we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think I covered it all.
All of that.
All of that.
Yeah, all of that. I got it from a text on a statement from the ACBS board that you did when you assumed the role as a president. So I just translated and explained.
Perfect translation.
Perfect translation. Thank you very much.
Well, but thank you for being here in the first place. Thank you for accepting our invitation. It's very special for ourselves to being here. So firstly, I'd like to start to kick off this interview by asking, to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work, what you do. I mean, I explained
You covered everything.
You covered everything, Raul, at the moment.
Okay. First of all, let me say that I am so glad and happy
to
be with all of you.
Thank you for
giving me the chance
to speak to my Brazilian friends.
I know the
work of Paradigma. Many friends,
many behavioral analysts, and older friends from
the CBS community.
So I feel very connected with Brazil.
Connected with Brazil.
Oh, that's great.
So it's a great chance
it's a great chance to me.
For me, and
I hope I can travel back.
Yeah, hopefully when the situation gets better, it would be great to have you.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
My work
is
mainly divided in two big areas.
Yeah. But let me interrupt you because some participants in the audience are saying that your audio is coming out twice.
I'm getting
an echo.
Yeah, that you're probably using two devices to speak.
No, only one.
Correct?
No, only one.
Only one. Okay.
I'm on my phone.
I'm on my phone.
And it happens
if I have my earbuds.
Well, I don't know what's the issue, but that's probably me. So I'll try to mute when you're talking. Let's see if it works better. So the focus here today. Let me say, okay. The focus here today is for us to talk about psychological flexibility in the current context of this pandemic, but I do imagine that many followers do not know what psychological flexibility is. So could you explain, what is that concept? What is psychological flexibility? And how could you explain that?
Okay. Psychological flexibility is a construct that is close to resilience, although it doesn't completely overlap. It's being open to your internal difficulties that come from your emotion and your thoughts, and not being halted by them, and being open to them helps you to carry forward on your valued life. So in these times where we are stressed, I've been staying at home now for almost 60 days. And I went out only twice. I got all my groceries, all my stuff from outside. And I'm here with my parents and in my old room. When I was young, I'm here to assist my parents because there was no chance for them to being assisted in this period. And what I see and what I feel also, there is a lot of psychological suffering. We have been stressed because we have been closed in our homes. And although we are in familiar environment, we are not allowed to do what we usually want to do or what we usually have done so far. For example, I've been away from my partner for 75 days now, and I still cannot travel, although the ban, the lockdown has a little bit eased. I cannot travel to Rome where she lives. So there is a lot of suffering there. It's not my suffering. This is minor suffering, but there are a lot of suffering around me that I witness. People that cannot travel to their parents, people that have witnessed the death of their dear and beloved ones without having the possibility to say hello for the last time. There have been funerals with no one attending the funeral. there is a disruption of the social network that links human being. And I know that Brazilians can understand this because they are close to Italians and Sicilian, by the way. You know, we touch each other's, we hug each other. So even if we are not so acquainted, but it's our way of saying hello. We kiss each other. And all these things are missing. You are afraid of kissing your dad, your sister, your nieces. And all this puts a lot of pressure on you. And you can also imagine like doctors that are avoiding going back home because they were afraid to infect their families. So it's very difficult to live now under these circumstances. And this is where psychological flexibility comes about. And you open yourself to these difficulties. And when you open yourself to difficulties and let them kind of, you know, like the sand in a bottle of water that slowly goes down to the bottom, it opens you a lot of opportunities and helps your mental health.
Okay, it seems very important nowadays, especially. I'm going to break again for a moment because I think before continuing, there might be an issue with audio again, but I think that's on my end. I'm just gonna grab a phone real quick. Sorry for that. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Pessoal, vou pegar um fone, já que tá todo mundo comentando que acho que isso pode resolver o problema. Um segundinho, não vou demorar. Oops. Okay, back again. I'm just connected.
Okay. The echo comes back again, Raul.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think that solves the problem. So we have so you just explained us a bit about psychological flexibility, and I think this is this might be a very important skill, especially nowadays. Lots of changes going on, especially when you mentioned the kissing and touching part. Here in Brazil, we are super touchy as well. Like we greet people, kissing, hugging, all that. So we have to adapt to those changes, like in a way, all of a sudden.
And psychological flexibility is about adaptation. The way you flexibly adapt to the changing circumstances. I'll give you one short example about this that can come, and again, I know that you can understand. When you, in pre-COVID times, when you were approaching someone to just say hello, to hug him, and
he or she becomes rigid in your presence, it was a sign to say, what I have done to him that is so cold with me. But now that could be another sign. Pay attention, you are not following safety rules. I'm still with you, but you are not following safety rules. So our mind can be stressed by all these things. I walked in the streets in these days where the lockdown has been a little bit relieved, and I see many people startling just because I was bending the corner street, and when they saw someone, they start just startling. They were where psychological flexibility can help.
Yeah, like context drives everything. Like, so the norm now is so now it can sound offensive to try to approach someone, right? As you just said. So what have you been doing during this period?
Well, personally, on my academic side, I've been teaching at distance. So I've been having classes, and also I have organized a number of things to help people. Two main initiatives. One at the University Polyclinic in Milan. There are almost 50 ACT therapists who are rotating to support health workers there. Since the beginning of the COVID phase, we have been tracing stress, doing a lot of initiatives inside the polyclinic to offer them support, providing them with material, meditations, trying to organize the intranet. So there has been a good work. And now we are also following them, the COVID positive patients at home. And also I've been doing research on this. We have a lot of data on mental health and mental health in doctors and mental health in general population. And also I have made a podcast on psychological flexibility called Radio Coronavirus. And it's a podcast to help people at home to gain their psychological flexible side.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. It's very interesting about the
yes,
podcast.
I've been working more than
Italian?
for COVID. Yes, it's in Italian. But,
okay.
But I think there is, it's kind of understandable because Portuguese and Italian are close cousins as language. I got almost of what you said in introducing myself, so a little bit of good to hear.
So probably you'd be sharing it then.
But if you want to translate the material, it's for free. I mean, if people that know a little bit of Italian and want to translate that material, it's for free. I mean, it's open to the CBS.
Okay, that's. Well, it's Radio Coronavirus. Is that correct?
Radio Coronavirus. Yes, it's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcast, and also on web at www.anchor.fm/Nanni5.
Okay, that's great.
So,
Some people some people were asking for the name, so I just typed here about the podcast. So yeah, in a way, like it's interesting that we are away from work, but we're working. It's common to hear that there's been more work than usual. So I can imagine, especially on this kind of mental health professionals.
Sorry, Raul, there was a lag in the connection. I missed your last 30 seconds.
No, I was asking about, you mentioned this research that you're carrying out with mental health professionals. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, we are 800 doctors in Italy, and what we found is that the COVID pandemic put a lot of great stress on them. More than 50% of them show clinical sign of depression, clinical sign of anxiety, and distress. And almost 15% of them have problems of sleep problems, especially in the late phases of sleep. So their sleep were shorter than usual. And this is a problem. You are already stressed in the morning when you need to go to work. And so we have to protect physicians. We have to protect them.
It's such important work. So I think this is probably returning a bit. You explained what psychological flexibility was, but we know that there's a counterpart. There's the which can produce suffering, especially in nowadays. What happens in psychological inflexibility?
Psychological inflexibility, and when we say that we must do something, when we say that when we feel our pressure, when we feel all the pressure, when we are so rigid with respect to our internal states, our internal feelings and emotions and thoughts, when we want to fight them in a way that it's not healthy. You cannot fight your emotion, you cannot fight your thoughts, but these thoughts and these emotions come back continuously, and you feel me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Probably had a minor connection issue.
Yeah, sometimes happens. The cables and networks are so overloaded in these times. So we are all home. I was just saying that psychological flexibility brings you to a side where you want to control your internal state, your internal feelings. And by controlling them and trying to control them, they push away from your valued path of life. And so in this period, in these times, for example, we noticed in our research that there was an increase in alcohol consumption, in drug consumption. There was an increase in stress. So people are yelling at each other more than usual. It's very difficult to stay inside. You are stuck to your rules, for example. there is a friend of mine whose son has been closed for 60 days in a row now in his room, just because he cannot go back to his university place and study there. Just saying that he is unable to study in his family house, and I want to go back. I can study to my university place, not mine. So this is psychological inflexibility. You can study anywhere. It's your mind that says that you cannot study there, but you are unhappy because you compare yourself to an ideal self. You compare your situation to an ideal situation, and you want to go back to that situation. You feel that someone has stolen your life, and he's a good and a passionate university and brilliant university student. He has a lot of very top and excellent marks, and he's closed in his room, and he doesn't do what he likes most, studying physics. So this is the dark side of language.
Yeah, I think there seems to be like a very strong difficulty in literally accepting that the situation has changed. So, I mean, I was going to say people, but we can speak for ourselves. Like we are out of touch with so much reinforcers right now that we can get lost in our verbal world about this situation's unbearable, or even that leads us to suffering.
There is a lot of suffering, and we can get lost. It's like sinking in your own mud. The more you try to fight that mud, the more you sink slowly in that mud.
Yeah. Like, is it possible? It's possible to see that. I think under extending that a bit, what explains this kind of suffering? I mean, that's this kind of suffering that seems very. It's a type of suffering that seems very human in a way. Like
it is
probably.
It is quintessential human. I was trying to understand if it's a question of my own network, so I moved to another room close to the Wi-Fi router. So let's see if it's a question of my network.
Yeah, it's overloaded. So hopefully we don't have more of that again. So I was asking, I don't know if you, what explains this kind of very human suffering?
It's quintessential human. The basic is that we are bound to our language. Either it is a overt language or an inner language. Thoughts and are part of our internal conversation. And human beings are the only one who can speak, who can report sorrow, who can report pain. My example is that any animal can experience sorrow and pain, and they can avoid places where they have suffered. I don't know, a dog, if you accidentally run over a dog and you just hit him, can avoid you for life. But he cannot go to his puppies and say, hey, don't go close that man because he is very bad to me. And we can do that. I mean, we can do from generation to generation. just things of people who are linked for generation to memories of their families that have been chased or have been suffered. We can, it's a gift on one side, because we can transmit from generation to generation information about dangers. For example, if someone 10,000 years ago, I don't know, collected a strange kind of mushroom, we still, after 10,000 of years, don't eat them, just because this information has passed from generation to generation. So it's something that it's very, very important to have. We are here because we can use language to solve problems. But in the meantime, language itself can be the source of sorrow. I mean, anyone in this conversation, both you and me, and the people who are listening us, can remember a situation that goes back to years and years and years ago, that if you think right now, you want to disappear immediately, because you say, what I have done. You got it, Raul, what I have done. And maybe that kind of situation was when you were young, or even younger, when you were a child. And so this could be a good thing if it somewhat drives your behavior better, but it also can be a bad thing if it remembers you about yourself, what you are not able to do, what you are not worth, what are the things that you miss, what are the things that you can do. And when you compare yourself to an ideal self, when you compare your situation with an ideal situation, suffering can be generated from this, and from observing very rigid rules about this. So just remember the example of my friend's song that says, "I cannot study here. The only way to study is to go back to my university place." And so it's all embedded in language.
Yeah, and as you were saying, at the same time that it can, it can help us to thrive. It can also empowers, not empowers. I think empowers is a bad word, but I think like it can actually, in a way, foster even the suffering itself. So, is it possible, would you say, to exercise or live up to our values during this period, or how can we do it?
This is exactly the focus of ACT, what ACT does. And I know, for example, that many of our audience are behavior analysts or they study behavior analysis, and maybe they work with autistic children. And what we have observed with our children, and I think it's a common experience, it's when you start learning to talk, you bring all this in your life and in their life. So I have children that when they start talking, they start saying something like, "I don't want to go back to my room." And I say, "Why? Did something happen?" "No, I can find the black man there." And but there was no black man. There is no danger in that room, and there was nothing in his or her experience that has associated the room or the things in the room with danger or fear. There's no Pavlovian learning nor Skinnerian learning in that. So it's another type of learning. And while we learn these things, we can also learn to react differently to these things. And so this is where ACT comes about. ACT teaches how to read differently the signs. So for behavioral analysis, I want to be technical. It's trying to learn a discrimination. It's discrimination learning. There is a light that comes up, and instead of going against your values, this light tells you, hey, there is a reinforcer over there. You can choose, instead of choose a negative reinforcer and choose avoidance, you can choose an appetitive reinforcer. And this is where value comes in our lives, and especially in this moment. Values are about what makes life appetitive for us, what is important for us right now. Values are important for me, for example, in this moment, because in spite of all the difficulties about our connection, I am willing to carry on with all of you because I do value these things. I do want to face all the difficulties, so I can get angry because what's happening in there, or why this damned internet connection is not working. Or I can say, Raul, let's do it in another way, or in another day. And still I am here feeling my nervousness about the connection and be with you. Instead of, what I feel, what I think about the internet connection is something that can be acted in another way, in a value way. Because I think that exactly in this moment, there are a lot of values that are expressed in this conversation and in being with you and all the people that are listening.
Yeah, that was a great way to explain, and I'd say especially the examples about the connection. I know I can relate to that. Like when I noticed that the connection was dropping, like I noticed some anxiety being elicited, and I was like, this is not gonna work. Or I could say, well, hang on a second, we're gonna solve it. Those are great examples. Thank you for that. There is a question here that someone asked. Roberto asked, by the way. So right now there's been some increasing cases here in Brazil about it's growing larger by day. Do you have any advices on what should we expect and how to cope with that we are still going to face, considering that we are behind the pandemic comparing to Italy?
First of all, I say hello to Roberta. Hi, thank you for your question. I'll tell you what we have suffered, Raul, and I'll tell you all the people who are listening to us in Brazil now. The emergency is real. What I have witnessed and speaking with doctors, I've spoken with general manager in hospitals up to the last nurse, and it was traumatic. I have call where they say something as, while I was speaking with them, they were screaming commands: free the beds, go there, clean sanitize this area, change the words. And we were speaking while people and themselves were talking. And we have witnessed a lot of pain. So unfortunately, this is what to be expected. There is a lot of pain and a lot of suffering to witness. It's not easy because people tend to break the rules. We are confined in very close spaces. There is a lot of suffering in the houses. Mental health problems have arisen, and people with mental health problems have aggravated. So I've been, for example, if there are psychotherapists listening to us now, I've been supervising my psychotherapies, and they have taught about, for example, for obsessive compulsive problems, teenagers with obsessive compulsive disease being segregated in their room. They don't really want to step out from their bed because they think the floor of the house is contaminated, and they don't want to go back to distance learning classes. There is also suffering for us. There is a lot of stress. You can fight with your family very often because living in small rooms like we do, it makes very hard to connect to people, and you are also afraid to. I was very, very afraid to kiss my father and my mother, to kiss them good night, and so there is a lot of things there. What has helped me, going back to ACT, to basic things have helped me. Find a purpose in what we are doing helps a lot. So I've done meditation, but also done a lot of thinking about my values and purpose. So I went back to some readings. I went back to a psychologist in a lager. And what I found there says something interesting. If he says that the latest freedom, they can take you everything away from you. So the COVID can take everything away from you, but not the latest freedom to choose what you want to be in any situation. So this has helped me a lot, choosing second by second what I do want to be in any situation. This doesn't mean that you are a saint or you're perfect. It means that when you go on that side, and I've been there in these 60 days, when I go to the side where I am frustrated, where it happened me to scream or to be so it helped me a lot to choose second by second the man I want to be, the person I want to be in this situation. And I think can help a lot of people understanding and giving purpose to your actions in this situation.
I can honestly say that this was very important personally to hear about. Because sometimes it can be very hard to exercise. You know, I think we can think about values and goals as something, you know, that's outside the walls, and you know, we can't go outside right now. But who can we be right now? So I think this is a very important reflection. I think, you know, even on a personal side, I'm thinking right now that I haven't considered that about who do I want to be like in this very moment and the moment after, what I'm striving to be. So I think this can be very helpful.
Yeah, we need to practice to create a space to break the automatic pilot, and then by creating the space and breaking the automatic pilot, just decide what you want to be. Like now. I mean, I want to be the person that is angry about the network, or I want to be with Roberta, Raul, and all my friends that are listening us. So we decide moment by moment, and we can decide it even if the circumstances bring us in a narrow corner of our house and our lives.
Okay. Yeah. It's very good to hear that. I think I'm just preparing myself right now. We're going for, we have a couple minutes left right now. I'm wondering, let me just see if we have like any more questions. Alguém tem perguntas para fazer? I'm just checking here. Well, I don't think so. So I think I'll just make it, just leave it open for any other comments you want to bring at this.
Well, this COVID experience has taught us a lot, at least here in Italy, or at least to me. I have, it's like any extreme experience. It brings out either the best of you or the worst of you. So I've seen people going to the very best side, being pro-social, being compassionate, and I've seen people going on the other side. What I've tried to do so far, and what I can invite people in Brazil to do so far, is two things, to remember two things. If you get disconnected from your social network, it's because we are trying to break this ring of contagions. So the better we fragment the ring, the better it is for controlling the virus. And I do hope that all governments all over the world, because there have been a lot of mistakes, can understand this and help the people doing this. Because from a social and an economical point of view, it's not that easy. So there is a lot of help needed. On the other side, we can promote pro-social activities also being at home. And this helps a lot. I've seen a lot of things out there. For example, basket living left in the streets. Those who can leave things in those baskets are allowed to leave, and those who need to take away things from that basket can. So it's about food, about dress, about things. So I've seen a lot of pro-social activities there. I will take that question later. I saw the question, thank you. But think what you can do for others. to support others. Even even the smallest act is important to others. Phone calls, sending things, buying things on the internet and sending it to people that are in need of. Messages, support, trying to do your best, and teaching people to protect themselves. That's another thing. They don't know how to. Wearing a mask, it's very difficult. So you need to be trained to wear a mask, to use it in the proper way. Washing your hands, it's very simple. Washing your hands. Set up your clocks. I've set up clocks in my house so that hands are washed continuously. So there are things that can be done and that can promote healthy behavior. And going to the non-believers of the COVID-19, yes, there are also in Italy non-believers and non-vaxxers, and also there are those with very strange fantasies, like that the virus was made in a lab to allow people to sell vaccines. And there are a lot of strange things around us right now. But still, there are a couple of things that can be done and can be done easily to protect ourselves, our dear, and our mental health.
Yeah, and that is also product of the verbal rules and the inflexibility,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
Conspiracy and all that.
Thank you, Roberta. My pleasure to share things with you. I don't know if I am a teacher, but I share to my best.
Well, I don't know about your time just went by here. It's been an hour already.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If you think that time flies away, it means that you are, as I feel, with friends and really, really connected. So
yeah,
my
absolutely.
pleasure. Oh, there is one question.
Yeah, there's one question. Do you want me to read it, or are you reading it?
No, I can read it. Oh,
Okay.
Felipe, that's a very interesting question. Reinforcer can be improved, can be strengthened by value. I mean, you can verbal reinforce the activity. You can verbally reinforce things, and you can also promote. You can also verbally have a motivating operation. We do it very, very easily and and it's part of what is the RFT way of looking at motivation. We can put it in a perspective, in a value perspective. What is important to you right now? And what I found is that when I say what is important for me right now, and my daddy and my mother are really important for me, just because I'm here to tell, I've been joking about this because I have been staying in this house for 60 days, not only in a row, but generally speaking, overall 60 days since I left the home. I mean, I've been traveling, staying abroad, staying in Milan, even now that I teach very closely to their place. I've been stayed for 60 days overall since I left home in 30 years. And still, when I say them, I can notice that my mind and my attitude changes towards them when I say, and I feel how important they are in my life. So even if my mother does things that she has never done because it's too old to remember
things, and their mind is slowly declining. And even if my father is low in doing things, there are still things that are reinforcer and big reinforcer, even if they can lose their strength, because you going back in the situation, my mind goes to my father and my mother 30 years ago, and they are not this. So reinforcer can lose their strength coming from them, and I value them. So it changes completely my perspective.
That was great. So I think we can close here right now.
Thank you.
But it was amazing to have you here.
My pleasure, really.
Yeah. So hopefully when he's allowed to travel abroad again, you can come visit us at Paradigma once again.
My first flight will be to Brazil.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
I do really love to come back to hug you, all of you.
Okay, great, man. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting, and take care, and please send me messages about your conditions. Let's stay connected.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Connected.
Ciao, Roberta. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.